Berlin Hauptbahnhof, where many a great railway journey starts and ends. And indeed, this is the venue for the beginning of ours today. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me here today in the German capital. Today we'll be heading east, across the border and into Poland, travelling as far as Krakow today with PKP Intercity aboard one of their EuroCity services. Having opened in 2006, Berlin Hauptbahnhof is Germany's fourth busiest station, serving around 120 million passengers per year. Now, for first-time users, the station may be a bit confusing, as you'll be greeted by a labyrinth of escalators to take you up and down to the platforms. That said, if you pay attention to the departure boards, you shouldn't really have any issues. As you can see, there really is a good selection of shops and whatnot housed within the station, and if you're wondering where the ticket office is, you'll find it between the entrances to platforms 12 and 13. Right, coffee in hand, let's head up to platform 11 to await the arrival of our train. Departure is scheduled for 10:37. Just a quick one while we're waiting for our train to arrive. If you would like ad-free access to my videos, then consider signing up to either my Patreon or channel members pages. Not only will you no longer have to endure the ads, but you'll also be helping to support my work. You'll find the relevant links in the description below. Well, I don't think that coffee had quite had a chance to kick in, as the arriving train just went sailing on past me. Not to worry though, as there's still a few minutes until we leave. Haulage is initially provided in the form of this Siemens Eurosprinter electric locomotive. This will be swapped out for a different loco once we cross into Poland. Trailing the locomotive are a rake of coaches, most of which date from the late 1980s. Included in the consist is accommodation for both first and second class passengers, as well as a restaurant car, which we'll be sure to pay a visit to later on. But for now, let's head to our coach and get on board. Now, I've booked a second class ticket for today's journey. First class was weirdly expensive for this trip, being about 3 times the cost of second class, which seemed a bit steep to me considering that it's only a seat upgrade and doesn't come with any sort of complimentary food or drink. Now, this is where things start to go a bit wrong. As you can see from my ticket, I'm supposed to be in coach 268, seat 82, with the O at the end of the number being short for the Polish word okno, or window. So try to imagine how disappointed I was when I boarded to find that not only was this in fact an aisle seat, but one in a bay of 4, which is literally the worst seat for a solo traveller such as myself. While I was trying to figure out what to do, we departed from Berlin Hauptbahnhof on time at just after 25 to 11. Our journey will initially see us heading east from Berlin to Frankfurt and der Oder. We'll then cross the river Oder into Poland, before then heading southeast from there to Krakow, via Wrocław and Katowice. Scheduled travel time is 8 hours and 32 minutes, and our top speed will be 160 km an hour or 99 miles an hour. Once out of Berlin, with the train still being relatively quiet, I decide to switch seats. A bit of a risky game given that I am essentially just giving up my reserved seat, but surely the train wouldn't get that busy, right? Anyway, these seats are absolutely amazing in my opinion. Legroom is practically unlimited. I mean, this would be exceptionally good for first class, let alone second class. As you'd expect, there's a footrest, seat back pocket and a tray table, if you can reach them that is. And there's also a bin under the seat in front too. Plug sockets can also be found, and there's even one for each passenger, which again exceeds my expectations for second class. The seats themselves are very good too, being nicely padded and, as such, very comfortable. And lastly, you'll also find a reading light and this nicely branded window blind too. Overall, a very, very good seat. Before we know it, we're pulling into Frankfurt an der Oder, which is just west of the border with Poland. Shortly after leaving Frankfurt an der Oder, we crossed the river Oder, subsequently leaving Germany and entering Poland. Thanks to the fact that both countries are members of the Schengen zone, there aren't any formal border checks, although it's pretty common for the police to board the train at the next stop in Brittain to carry out some cursory checks. Right, time for a wander. As you can see, we have already swapped locomotives. This was done in Brittain, and we're now being hauled by a Polish-built EP09 electric locomotive. As you can see, the train is now beginning to get quite busy, although the worst is yet to come, trust me. I must say though, for such old coaches, the interiors look pretty up to date, and I love the coloured lighting. In addition to the 2+2 configured second class open saloon, this train also features second class compartments. These each have 6 seats and, in keeping with the rest of the train, are pretty spacious. At the back of the train, you'll find a 2+1 configured first class open saloon coach, and I think you can see why I was reluctant to pay the extra money to sit here, as the seats are basically just slightly more spacious versions of those found in second class. As for the toilets, they were all fine, being very clean, well stocked and in good working order. Now, time for the highlight of any long-distance train journey in Poland, the famous Vaz dining car. You'll find some form of Vaz catering on most PKP Intercity trains, except for the lowest grade TLK services. For my lunch, I went for the pierogi, which is like meat-filled dumplings, and I washed this down with a few wheat beers. Considering that we're on a train, I think that the cost is very reasonable, and of course, I think there is no greater privilege than sitting down with a nice meal and watching the world glide on by. By the time I finished my food, we were already pulling into Wrocław. Unfortunately, the train got very, very busy here. This is a common problem that plagues a good chunk of the Polish rail network, and I found that this is especially true on the Wrocław-Katowice-Kraków corridor. About an hour out of Krakow, we arrive into Katowice. From here, we'll run non-stop for the remainder of our journey. Well, this was a very mixed journey indeed. On one hand, the train is kitted out with modern and smart looking interiors and amenities, and I think that PKP Intercity have one of the best onboard catering offers anywhere in Europe. That said though, I just can't overlook the fact that my seat reservation was incorrect, and that the train was incredibly overcrowded, especially after Wrocław. As for the cost, I paid around 115 zloty for my ticket, which equates to about £21.50. While this is definitely more on the pricey side for a journey on PKP Intercity, you've got to bear in mind that their international services do tend to be a bit more on the expensive side. So on that basis, I don't think that this represents bad value for money at all. However, I certainly wouldn't be paying the 60 quid or so for first class in a hurry, especially considering that it's just a seat upgrade and doesn't include any additional onboard services. So that's my take on this rather overcrowded train. However, what did you make of it? Be sure to let me know in the comments. With that though, welcome to Krakow, which is one of my favourite cities to visit not just in Poland, but in Europe too. We arrive into Krakow Główny around 20 minutes late, at about 6:15. I do hope you enjoyed this week's video. Be sure to join me next week when we'll be checking out one of TransPennine Express's high-speed Nova 1 services. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you don't miss that one. Also, be sure to give this video a like and a comment if you enjoyed it. And if you didn't, be sure to let me know what I can do to improve in the future. A special thanks as always goes to my amazing patrons and channel members. You can see the names of my sleeper and first class patrons and members up on screen now. With that though, all that's left for me to say is thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you all next Friday.